I've made a video about my ER nursing, ICU nursing, and PACU nursing. Might as well go ahead and make a video about Med-Surg nursing and floor nursing that I was involved with for about 16 months on 2 different floors. I had made a video before this, but I watched it and felt like it was too negative towards floor nursing, and I wanted to make another one. Floor nurses are the backbone of any hospital, but when I was a floor nurse, it just seems like they are the most abused nurses in any healthcare system. I think they come in during the day, especially. I mean, they come in with 5, 6, sometimes 7 patients. They'll discharge half of them, and then ER and ICU will be putting patients right back in those beds. And in between, they're having to give meds and make everybody happy, take patients to the bathroom. Floors are always usually short. They're short nurses, they're short CNAs, they're short secretaries, so it seems like everything falls on the backs of the staff that does come in, the staff that is there. So my time as Med-Surg and floor nurse was stressful, and it felt like I was being hazed, honestly. I was a new nurse, so I had limited concept of how hospitals ran, how things worked, what other specialties, what their responsibilities were. So it just felt like I was just getting screwed constantly. And I think if I went back to the floor now, I'd probably feel the same way. I had my cousin's husband just left the floor to go to the ICU, and when he got out of nursing school, I told him, try to go for the specialty you want, try to go for the ER and the ICU, and I think he did. He just didn't get it, and he ended up on a med floor, just like a Med-Surg floor. I'm not even sure what the floor was. I think it was just general Med-Surg. And he said he was going to do his year and get the hell out, and I think that's what he did. Recently started in the ICU, and I wish him the best. I think he's going to have a whole lot more fun there. But I spent maybe 8 months on a high acuity CHF floor. That's what they called it. It was basically a step down. You could have anywhere from 2 to 5 patients. These were fairly sick patients, just a stone's throw from being ICU status in some cases. And that was a hard floor to be a new nurse on. And it really kind of warped my opinion of nursing for the worst. And I moved from that floor to another Med-Surg floor closer to home in Greensboro, North Carolina. And the only saving grace about that floor was the manager. The manager was absolutely fantastic. She would come in like 4 in the morning, give us food. I mean, she was such a bubbly nursing manager. I don't think I've ever had one quite like her before or after. My managers now are pretty awesome, but she had so much energy. She had such a drive to help her nurses, help her patients, and I truly admire her. I would love to say her name, but I'm trying to be pretty anonymous on all my places of employment and people I've worked with. But if you know who you are, I truly appreciate the attitude that you brought to your job. I think she's now a very high up director, which is what she deserves, because more people need to be in healthcare with that attitude, just attitude and energy, and it brought such a difference to the floor. But overall, the floor was it still had that abusive feel to it. I mean, you would have 7 patients during the day. 7 patients is manageable at night, as long as, 3 or 4 of them sleep. But most of the time, I worked nights most of the time, and I worked a few day shifts. In day shift, med-surg nurses, floor nurses, they are freaking rock stars, because I do not see how they deal with the stress and juggling 5, 6, 7 patients. These are complex patients. Some of them are total care. I just don't see how they do it. I couldn't do it anymore. And I truly thank them for what they do. As an ER nurse, an ICU nurse, and a PACU nurse, I am guilty of this. I would complain about floor nurses all the time. Why can't they take report? Why can't they do this? Why are they stalling? You gotta step back, even if you're mad, and say, something that's going on. They have 6 other patients. I feel bad for floor nurses, but there are some people out there that are just born to do that job. They have the right mindset. They have a drive to fulfill that progressive care niche in healthcare, which is something that we really, really need, because one day I think all of us will probably end up on a med-surg floor, needing progressive care. We want to progress from being sick to being healthy, and we need a good nurse. Unfortunately, the burnout rate on these floors is obscenely high, and nurses end up quitting, going to different specialties, so you kind of have this consistently high turnover rate with new nurses coming onto the floor. And that, I'm not saying new nurses are bad, but I think it degrades the quality, overall quality of care in the long run. There was a nurse on the floor I worked in Greensboro who had been there for probably 30 years. She was actually an LPN. She was grandfathered in. Just the knowledge that she brought to the table was immense. And they would actually make me, a nurse who had been out of school for 16 months, go and check her assessments, or not check them. I had to do an initial assessment, and then she would go up and do a follow-up assessment. That to me was highly degrading to her. She had been an LPN for 30 some years on the same floor, and there was this little sunny-nosed new RN who would go in and have to assess her patients first. But we're losing that experience where the older nurses are going to clinics because they can't shuffle around 7 patients during a 12-hour shift, and that's bad. We need to start treating these floor nurses better. I'm not the most liberal individual in the world. I have a lot of conservative views, but what California is doing with their health system is a good thing in one regard, and that is mandating patient-nurse ratios. I think somebody can correct me, but I think the floor nurses out there have a maximum of 5 patients, and that is awesome. That prevents burnout, that prevents error, that prevents that just increases the patient's quality of care, I believe. You can have a damn good nurse who's been a nurse for 20 years make a mistake because she has 7 sick patients, and that's no good. So I would like to say thank you to all the med-surg nurses out there. I know you guys have a hard job, that's it. If you have interest, I mean, they say in nursing school you need a year of med-surg experience. I don't prescribe to that thought process, because I don't want new nurses to be jaded that quickly. I mean, it's pretty easy to get jaded and burned out in nursing. So I think it's important to go into a specialty that you have absolute interest in right out of school. So if you want to be a NICU nurse, try to be a NICU nurse. If you want to be an ER nurse, try to get into the ER somewhere. If you want to go to the ICU, go to the ICU. But right now, a lot of the jobs that are open are med-surg, because med-surg nurses, they do their year and then they get out. But if you're able to go directly to the specialty that you want, I would highly suggest it, because if you don't want to be a med-surg nurse, it's just going to make you question your career choice and make you be in a bad mood at work. And we don't need more grumpy nurses. We got enough of them. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on med-surg nursing. Again, I would like to say thank you to all the floor nurses out there. You're the ones that make the healthcare world go round. And I hope for a future where there are mandates in which protect nurses, decrease patient ratios. I think that would be the best possible thing at this moment, because in 10 years, I don't want to, when I'm a physician, I don't want to see my nurses on the floor have 9 patients. That would be catastrophic for our healthcare system.